the political parties in Tamil Nadu, they derive a lot of inspiration and guidance, and that tradition of blaspheming Sanatan Dharma is continuing from a really long period of time. You can see that in the writings of Robert Caldwell, right, who was promoting this separate racial identity for the Dravidians, and then they just basically wanted to get rid of the Sanatan Dharma as much as possible, or try to convert or keep them subjugated. So this famous scholar, Raymond Schwab, he says that the Indians cannot understand that their religion, which is Christianity, is a universal religion for earth, and that they, right, which means the Indians, can only produce mere fables and fantasies, as if there is no supernatural accounts in their religion. See, every religion has supernatural accounts. You cannot avoid that, right? And they just see those aspects and they say, okay, supernatural is there, so it's all mythology. We don't accept all that. But it is part of every single religion, be it Buddhism, Jainism, Christianity, Islam. You go everywhere. Supernatural is inseparable from any religion. But they fail to see the historical impacts, the historical imprints, the historical evidences, and they try to promote that it is mythology, right? So this narrative was started that Krishna is derived from Christ. This narrative was famously built up that Krishna, Krista, these names are very similar. So probably Christ is the source of Krishna. Can you imagine that kind of, wild speculation? Christ is the source of Krishna. Why? Because, we don't find any historical evidences of Krishna before Christ. So we will call Christ as the source of Krishna. If you don't open your mouth tomorrow, they will say that, even the temples in India were built by the British colonials. Anything. So how this started, that both of them established religion. Okay, Krishna is the establisher of religion, or we can say he's a major force in Sanatan Dharma, in the sense that he is giving Gita, he's giving knowledge, and he's proclaimed as the Supreme Lord, and so on. So we have Krishna on one side, and Christ is also having a lot of importance in the Christian tradition. So the British scholars designed a thesis that, okay, Christ is the source of Krishna. Why? Because this can facilitate conversions into Christianity. So apart from that, we have our own homegrown problems. Like this famous historian, she says Yudhishthira was inspired by Ashoka, which I will show today in my seminar. I'll show you that Yudhishthira was in no ways inspired by Ashoka. Ashoka might have got inspiration from Yudhishthira, but not the other way around. Imagine if somebody says, right, Gandhi was inspired by Modi. Can somebody say like that? Gandhi was inspired by Modi. There's no way it's possible. Modi became the prime minister just recently, and he became a leader 20, 30 years back. And Gandhi is much before, he passed away much before that. So how can Gandhi be inspired by Modi? Right? A person who comes first in history, he can be an inspiration for someone who comes later. And Yudhishthira is obviously coming much before in history. Right? So I'll show evidence of a Jataka, right, which shows that the Jataka is aware of Yudhishthira as the son of Pandu. And this Jataka is 2,400 years old. And we all know the period of Ashoka. Right? So how come Yudhishthira came after Ashoka? How is it possible? Because 2,400-year-old Buddhist book speaks about Yudhishthira as the son of Pandu. Right? So this is the kind of, ridiculous logic that we are dealing with in India. So what are the facts? So coming straight to the Tamil Sangam literature, Tamil Sangam literature is divided into multiple categories, which I will touch upon later in this seminar. So Tamil Sangam literature, in which you will see that there is a literature called as Kalitogai. So Kalitogai, in poem 25, lines 1 to 12, it refers to the Lakshagriha episode. We all know of the Lakshagriha episode, how Duryodhana conspired to kill the Pandavas, right? Lock them in a wax lac house and burn it so that they will burn in that house. But we all know how they went inside the tunnel and they escaped, right? So that story is narrated in the Tamil Sangam literatures in Kalitogai. In poem 25, lines 1 to 12, this story of Lakshagriha, how the Pandavas escaped the lac house, right? That's clearly mentioned. So now you can see very interestingly this reference in the fourth point. You can see the poem describes that the eldest sons of the blind king, the eldest son of the blind king we all know it is Dhritarashtra, the eldest son of the blind king, Duryodhan, and this blind king is famous in the northern language, most possibly Sanskrit, who tried to kill the five kings, right? This northern king and his son, they are trying to kill the five kings. We all know who the five kings are, the five Pandavas, and they are famous throughout the world. And their house is being burnt, right? The house of wax. So it's a clear reference to the Mahabharata episode. Then we find another interesting reference in Kalitoge, poem 101, line 15 to 20. It refers to a fight between an elephant and a tiger, right? The poet is seeing a fight between an elephant and a tiger. And when he's seeing that fight, he's saying that it looks like how, we have the battle of maces between Bhima and Gada Yuddha, which Gada Yuddha between Bhima and Duryodhana. So he compares this fight between elephant and a tiger with the fight between Bhima and Duryodhana, right? And interestingly, he doesn't blame Bhima for hitting Duryodhana on his thighs. This poet says Bhima is the righteous one, Dharmik, basically, right? Dharmik Bhima is killing the leader of the 100, Duryodhana, right? So it's a reference in the Tamil Sangam literature. These literatures are 2,400 years old. And this is the real Tamil culture, not what the politicians inform us. So again, 5 versus 100. The Perumpana Triparai, line 412 to 421 says that the 5 heroes had well-decorated chariots, right? The 5 heroes had well-decorated chariots. They never lost a war, and they destroyed the 100 in a battle. Historically, we all know there is no 5 versus 100 anywhere else except the Mahabharata. Okay, and then we find another reference in Purananuru 56 and line 3 to 7. It glorifies the prowess of a Pandya king and compares his qualities with Krishna and Balram. He says that the words used for Krishna in many cases in Sangam is Mayon, Manivannan, Ma Manivannan, so on. And the words used for Balram is Valiyon, Vali. Bala becomes Vala, Valiyon. So Valiyon, Balram, right? And Krishna is Mayon and Valiyon. So it compares the king with the Pandya king with Balram and Krishna, Valiyon and Mayon, right? And describes Balram body as whitish in color. We all know Balram was fair and Krishna was dark, right? So that is again given, the comparison is given. And Krishna Balram were highly respected, revered, and worshipped in the ancient Tamil literature. Unlike what we are taught, that the Tamils were Shaivites, the Aryans brought Vaishnavism into Tamil Nadu. All that nonsense we don't find in the Tamil Sangam literatures. Okay, so the poetic attributes. So what happens is in Tolkapiyam, which is a grammatic text of Tamil language, just like we have Ashtadhyayi in Sanskrit, we have Tolkapiyam in Tamil. So in Tolkapiyam, we find that the poet divides the lands into 5. Kurunji, Mullai, Marudam, Neidil, Pale. So he divides the lands into 5 and he assigns the god for each of those lands. So Seyon, which is Kartikeya, and Mullai, which is the forest land, and the god is Mayon, Krishna. Krishna was the god of the Mullai land, which is the forest land. We all know Krishna goes to Vrindavan, the forest of Braj. So Krishna and forest, these are intrinsic, they are inseparable in that sense. So putting Krishna as the god of Mullai is also a very interesting and an important way to establish his divinity in the Tamil literature. So when we see the Tamil literature, we find that these are primarily divided into 3 categories. Grammatical treatises, Ilakkanam, which we call it as Tolkapiyan, Agatyam. Then we have the Tamil Sangam literature, which are the main group of literature. We have 18 earlier, which is called as Padanettu Mel Kanakku. And then we have the 18 later texts, which is Padanettu Keel Kanakku. So we find there are, and then of course the 5 great kavyas, Ainperum Kavyangal, Silapadikara, Manimekalai, Chivakachintamani, and so on. So we find the references throughout. We find references to Mahabharata characters, Krishna. We find them in the grammatical treatises. We find them in Sangam literatures. We do find them in the 5 great epics, right? So they are throughout. Now, my question to these politicians is, you find references throughout in your ancient Tamil literature. How do you call it as a part of Aryan culture? It is there in your own literature. It's not, no Aryan has come and wrote this Tamil Sangam literature. It is part of the ancient Tamil culture.